name is Rosalie, and this is my husband, Robert.
And these are my parents, and I'm going to ask them some questions about their marriage. First off, how long have you been married for?
We've been married for 23 years.
How old are you guys when you got married?
I was 20... How old was I? 20.
I was 27.
27? Well, how was your courtship? The time between your marriage and your engagement and your marriage?
Well, there was a lot of planning for the wedding. We had to choose different places to have the reception.
The band at the reception.
Yeah, and we had to pick
as far as
out.
inviting our relatives and friends and things like that.
We had to pick out.
What about your dress, right?
My dress, yes, and
Oh.
also actually then we introduced our parents. We had gone to a restaurant and we
That's
introduced
right, yeah.
both parents. Actually, it was after our engagement, but that's how my parents and his parents met at a restaurant.
How did that go? Nerve-wracking at all?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my husband was nervous, and I definitely was, because it's the first time they meet, so it is something that's,
It was
different.
after your engagement when they first met?
Yes. We didn't introduce them to each other right before.
No.
No, we waited.
Well, why'd you two decide to get married?
We had a lot in common when we fell in love, and
We wanted to raise a family.
we wanted then to raise a family together.
And have a couple of kids and a dog.
And here's our dog Rocky, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Who keeps us up at night?
Well, where were you guys when you met? Where'd you meet?
We met at a bowling alley called Herrick's Lane. We met through my sister-in-law, who was on his bowling
my
league.
bowling team,
And one night I happened to ask to go with her, and I met Robert through my sister-in-law.
Was he a good bowler?
I don't know. Were you a good bowler?
yeah. So.
He was so-so. I think he just did it for, like, recreation.
To meet the
That's
woman?
all, yeah.
Well, you
So
got lucky.
I knew someday I was going to meet your mom.
And he bowled a strike, many strikes, so I gave him good luck. Yeah.
Describe your engagement. How did you guys propose and everything?
We proposed to each other in the
He
winter.
proposed to you.
Yes. I wouldn't propose to him, sorry. He proposed to me in the winter, and
It was in
his
Central
plans.
Park on a horse and buggy.
His plans were to take me out to Manhattan, take me out to dinner, and then see a Broadway show, which we did. And then after that, he
And
wanted
actually, they sent us the wrong tickets.
Yeah, we went to the city, and we went to go.
They mailed us the wrong
We
tickets.
wanted to go see a certain show, and my husband didn't look at the tickets before we went there, and we had to go to a different location, but that was fine. But the real important thing, and something that was very special, is how he proposed to me, which was in Central Park on a horse and buggy. But there's a little story to that. The story.
Let Dad explain the story.
No, I'll explain it to you. But I explain better than he does. What happened was he wanted to propose to me in Central Park. Therefore, he didn't want me to know.
We were going for a ride down like 34th Street.
And the gentleman who was actually driving the horse and buggy had to know that my husband was going to propose to me, that he wanted him to take us to Central Park. So they pulled over, and my husband went out of the horse and buggy with the gentleman to tell him this. And the horse had pulled itself away from the actual pole with the cord that they had tied us up in. And I was awfully lucky that I didn't, the horse
didn't
didn't run off with me.
Wow.
And he did propose on his knees, which was traditional, which was
He
very
dropped his
nice.
coffee, right?
Well, he said he dropped something on the floor. So when he was on the floor, I says, "What are you doing?" And he says, I dropped something. And then he took out the ring, and he had asked me, would I marry him? And after 23 years, as of today, I never said yes that evening, right?
That's right.
But obviously it was a big yes. And we're happily married as of today and the future.
How old were you guys when you got married?
Your mom was 24 and I was turning 31.
7 years or 6.5?
We were
almost 7 years.
Almost 7 years apart.
Well, Dad, what were you looking for in your spouse?
Looking for someone who was like myself and was
Family oriented. He
someone
liked
who was going to be
family.
honest, and it's tough to find these days.
What about you, Mom? Same thing? Trustworthy, good personality?
Definitely trustworthy and good personality, and just his background, his family. I knew that they were nice people, so that was also a plus, that he came from a nice family. That meant a lot to me.
How about you, Rocky? What do you look for in a spouse? No, I'm just kidding. Does the reality of marriage compare to what you thought it would be? Like before marriage?
You know what? You kind of think it's like a Cinderella. It's like, oh, you live happily ever after, and there's no worries and no whatever.
Yeah,
Come different things with marriage, like.
Sure, that's, people think it is different. It's hard.
Because you're actually.
You have to go to work, you have to raise a family, you have to pay the bills.
Well, you don't think it's easy?
It's definitely not easy.
It's definitely not easy, but we work at it together
as
a family
to
make it work and make sure we do everything we can.
Well, how do you think your children affect marriage? You think it brings you closer?
Sure.
Of course, because both of you are a part of us, and that makes it extra special.
That's true. Well, do you think money is important for a marriage?
I think you have to have some money, but do I think it's important? Absolutely not. I don't think that's the most important thing in a marriage. Obviously, love comes first. You need money to pay your bills. What do you think about that question? As far
do you think it's more about love?
Oh, I definitely think it's more love than it should be money.
Do you think cultural background would matter at all, or does it really matter to you?
No,
it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. I think it actually is just the person who you truly are. And I don't think if you're a good person, and it doesn't matter if you're yellow or purple, I think it's important to see who you are within.
What about, you think educational background makes a difference?
Well, I don't think that if somebody graduates college and the other one doesn't, I do not think that it makes a difference.
Is that for you, Dad, at all? Or?
No, it doesn't. That doesn't make a difference.
No, I absolutely do not think that.
You think it's more the person, not
the person? Yeah, and how you get along.
Yeah,
and what you have in common.
Well, what advice did you give teenagers who are dating and thinking about getting married? Do you think teenage years are too early and they shouldn't do it?
Absolutely. You're a teenager, you're still growing, you're learning. There's many different, people you could meet, and you can't just think that the first person you meet you're going to marry, because you have no one else to compare that person with. You have to compare another person with a different person to say, oh wow, this person is different and is better than the other one.
Plus you have to go to college. And
there's so much more in life, right?
Sure, you have to have money to pay your bills.
Hang the phone.
Hang up, just pick it up. Hang on.
Do you think the whole finances part is a big part for teenagers? If they don't have a job, how are they going to get through
Sure.
everything?
Oh, definitely, that's a big part of it because to get married, you need to pay bills. You're gonna either live in an apartment or you're gonna own a house. Sorry about the phone call.
Jesus.
And I would suggest them to actually be older to learn more about other people who they date. And
It's about experience, you think? More like knowing other people?
yeah, they should not marry the first person. I don't believe in that because, you can't compare anyone else with, the person.
Dad, what would you give a young married couple? What advice would you give to a young married couple who's having marital issues? You think they should work on it or just say, screw it, just get a divorce?
Go to counseling
Yeah,
and
there's
try to make
counseling.
it work.
Try to make it work as best as you
Especially
can.
if you have kids.
Oh, that's for sure. If you have kids, you got to try to work it out.
'Cause you know what? Everyone has problems. So you have to work it out.
Well, how was the beginning stages of marriage? Was it tough at first, being away, living from your family, and living with the guy you've only been seeing in his own house, in his own environment?
It was very different. Actually, it was extremely different. It was very exciting, I remember.
Well, it feels like you're free again or something.
Like I'm free. No, you think you know the person, but you really don't. You know the person. Every day you learn more after you get married about that person. And up until today, you can learn more about the person.
That's
you
right.
know?
Well, if
When you're dating, it's different because you go, I used to pick up your mom and she'd, come home from work or whatever, and
Then get dropped off back at home because I was never allowed to stay out. I was brought up that
she
I
was,
had a curfew at 12 o'clock and I had to be home by 12
even
o'clock.
when you're in your 20s?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Different age.
Yes. Different day and age, yes.
Well, if you can go back in time and you could change something about your marriage, what would you change?
Absolutely nothing. I'm very happy.
What about you, Dad?
I wouldn't change anything.
Not even him? The little dog?
The little dog.
No, we wouldn't change Rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Even
No.
when he keeps you up and...
Yeah, we have a little dog that barks throughout the night and we wake up.
And now he's being quiet.
Yeah, for a change.
What do you say is the key to a happy marriage? You think being together a lot, enjoying your free time?
Trusting each other is number one. That's, to me, trusting has a lot to do with it. Communicating is also a big thing. And just really, what do you think? Anything different? Communication. Really it. Just getting along, and if you're having a problem, talk it out, and never go to bed being mad at each other. That's very important.
Think so?
Absolutely.
Do you think a couple should live together before getting married, or?
I definitely don't agree with that. I think that you should first get married and then live with each other. I don't believe in that. I think the way I grew up, as far as
I wouldn't live with someone before.
how would I say that? Like as far as growing up, my parents.
Your parents weren't. My parents too didn't.
They were old-fashioned, so you don't live with each other until you are married, and that's our belief.
Think so?
Yeah.
Well, for someone to live with each other, they get a feel for how they're gonna live with each other for the rest of their lives. You think living with each other is more about marrying each other first, and that's like a gift of marriage than living with each other before? You think it's more of like going to marriage and it's kind of more of like a surprise and a gift from marriage kind of thing?
Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. Because some people live with each other and they feel there's no reason to get married. They don't want to make it official. And they just feel like being together in the same household is still being married. But it really isn't, because you're not married in a church and you're not legally married.
That's true.
So,
Well, what would you think about age differential? You think it really matters?
no, not at all. When I was younger and I met him, I felt that he was a little older than me, but as I am getting older, it's leveling off. Let's put it to you this way. So I do
No,
tease him about
She's
his
getting
age,
old now too.
but I'm getting old,
She's catching up to
obviously.
me.
Catching up to
What is it,
the
6.5 years or 6?
Yeah.
yeah, 6.5 years. But the age doesn't matter at all.
What about you? Got any stories about your marriage or
And he's,
anything, or being together? Any notable stories, or the time where mom kicked you out of her house, something, dad, something like that?
Oh, when we were going out, that's
a long story.
That's a long story.
But
so I left the house early that night
but it's
because I
been
had to go to work, and then
But it's been 23 years, and we're happily married, and we have 2 beautiful children, and a
3 if you
cute
want to
dog.
count the dog.
And all I could say is that we're all blessed to have each other and to be a happy family. So thank you so much for this interview. Do you have any other questions you'd like to ask?
No, I think we're
Okay.
done.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
No problem.
good night.
Good night.
Please tell me it was
How long was it?
If it's more than 10 minutes, I don't care. I'll lose the point.